Controlling transmission.
Like a flying saucer.
It's the way you move to the killer groove.
Killer groove, make your body rock, make your body All right, how's everybody doing tonight? Oh, it's a good one. I don't know. I figured today we could start with something that's a gem of nostalgia from my childhood. This game, Killer Instincts, came out on Super Nintendo and was hailed as a Mortal Kombat killer. Did you notice a few differences in the way they approach their art style? And even the way the combos and shit work, man. They were very different fighting games. But one of the big things was the Mortal Kombat movie had come out. And it was all full of, shit fucking breakbeat 90s techno. So the soundtrack on Killer Instinct was basically all the same kind of stuff. One of the things that set the games apart, though, was Mortal Kombat used like photography to shoot their character models and people in different poses in order to accomplish all the different animations and stuff. At least it seemed that way. I'm speculating quite a bit here. I was only a kid at the time. But Killer Instincts actually rendered their characters in 3D first and then took sprite images of them so it could work with Super Nintendo. But that led to some very interesting looking character models, such as this skeleton guy you got here. You could actually play as the skeleton. And there was Fulgore and all kinds of crazy fantastical stuff. It was pretty cool. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. Oh, it came with a CD. When you went to the store and actually bought the game in the box was this CD called Killer Cuts. And it was published along with the cartridge, so all rights are owned by Nintendo, I'm sure. Given proper, credit here, credits too. But yeah, the CD was actually packaged in the box, and I can't tell you how many times we would sit and just pop this into the stereo and listen to it. Man, like we had a ball with this shit. I think it had a huge impact on me later in life when I actually started writing music, producing stuff. Anyway, this is an experiment in more ways than one, I suppose. But I wanted to see if this time slot would work for the people who generally do show up from time to time. And I have a handful of things I wanted to talk about. Some of it from Twitter, some of it from YouTube. Just general political roundup kind of stuff. So, and I'm thinking maybe I can take some of this and cut it into pieces and release videos on Rumble and YouTube with it. We'll see how that works. Yeah. So one of the things that's been happening lately is this Twitch streamer known as Asmongold. You may not know who he is. Big dude over on Twitch. But mostly when I would check in on his streams just to see what he was up to, he'd be playing a video game of some kind. Nothing particularly controversial or anything like that. But lately, a lot of his clips have been coming out and are pretty decidedly pro-Trump. So I found that to be kind of interesting. I never knew the guy's politics, and never bothered to ask, and it never seemed to be a very big part of what he was doing. You know what I mean? So that's not why I was paying any attention to him. But lately, the dude's been saying some pretty base stuff. So here he's covering the escalation in tensions between the Yemeni Houthi rebels and the United States.
Yemen's Houthis have responded by attacking the USS Harry Truman aircraft carrier.
Oh, jeez. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
They claim to launch 18 ballistic missiles along with many drones. The American is a blatant aggression during our country in the past hours with more than 47 air raids targeting several areas. And so now they're going to attack back.
We're sitting on 4 years of deferred.
That's one aircraft carrier. 47 air raids, they say. That's probably 47 different passes from different F-18s, if I had to guess. But
deferred maintenance from Joe Biden. They were allowed for over 100 times to shoot at commercial shipping. 4 months ago, when we sent a ship through, it was shot at 17 times. Ships haven't been able to go through for over a year without being shot at. Freedom of navigation is basic. It's a core national interest.
How long will this campaign last?
Can you imagine having to sail all the fucking way around Africa just because a couple of clowns don't want you to go through here? The billions of dollars that we're spending on this?
I want to be very clear. This campaign.
Yeah, it's not just a couple of clowns. They're essentially rednecks out in the freaking woods, out in the deserts of Yemen. That are fucking
billion
getting funding, military intelligence, and military weaponry from Iran in order to accomplish this. They've attacked a crap ton of commercial vessels. They've attacked the United States Navy. I don't know how many times. And our response has been to take out that missile launcher, take out that particular site, wherever that attack originated from. But Trump is finally saying no more. We're going to eliminate the Houthis' ability to accomplish tasks like this.
Billions of dollars that we're spending on this?
I want to be very clear. This campaign
And
is
so
about freedom
outfly
of
the
navigation.
F-18
The minute the
sorties.
Houthis say, we'll stop shooting at your ships, this
From the,
campaign will end.
USS Harry
So
Truman.
all they have to do is stop shooting at us? Here's the way I see it, okay? If we can't use our military to protect international waters, this is one of the poorest countries in the world shooting up American vessels. If we can't take care of this, fuck this, because it's a lot of my money going into this. I paid for this. Right? Actually, I don't know. Is this one of theirs or one of ours? Actually, you know what? I
That's
probably
one of
did
theirs.
pay for this. That's theirs? Yeah, but that doesn't mean we didn't pay for it somehow, right? Yeah, I still paid for it, believe it or not.
He's not lying. He's not lying. And with all of the bullshit going out with USAID, now, mind you, it is the United States Agency for International Development. It is not U.S. aid. It's not just money going to cure AIDS in Africa or to help starving people in the Middle East. That's bullshit. That's what the Democrats want you to think. But the reality is this is an NGO that pushes out tax dollars to all over the world to fund propaganda campaigns. And a lot of it ends up in squirrely, shadowy places where we don't exactly know what the fuck happens to it. Sort of like Ukraine. We sent $127 billion was the last estimate I saw to Ukraine, and they don't know where $100 billion of it went. They have no idea. How the fuck does that happen? How does that even happen? It doesn't seem possible, does it? How do you misplace $100 billion? Holy shit. But leave it to cokehead TV star Zelensky to fucking not know where $100 billion went. When it comes to the Houthis and the shit that's going on there, the president of the United States has said that he's going to hold Iran responsible for any retaliation from the Houthis. That is a little bit unsettling to me. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So to all Houthi terrorists, your time is up. Today I have ordered the United States military to launch decisive and powerful military action against the Houthi terrorists in Yemen. They have waged an unrelenting campaign of piracy, violence, and terrorism against American and other ships, aircraft, and drones. Not just mercantile ships, but again, they have attacked the United States Navy. And our response has always been to be, exactly proportional, right? That's a word the military likes to use, the Pentagon likes to use, is proportional retaliation. Which again means we find whatever rocket launcher sent the rocket, blow it up, and then we're finished. But the whole attitude has shifted. Trump continues, Joe Biden's response was pathetically weak, so the unrestrained Houthis just kept going. It has been over a year since a U.S. flag commercial ship safely sailed through the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, or the Gulf of Aden. The last American warship to go through the Red Sea 4 months ago was attacked by the Houthis over a dozen times. Funded by Iran, the Houthi thugs have fired missiles at U.S. aircraft and targeted our troops and allies. These relentless assaults have cost the U.S. and the world economy many billions of dollars, while at the same time putting innocent lives at risk. The Houthi attack on American vessels will not be tolerated. Hear, hear. We will use overwhelming lethal force until we have achieved our objectives. The Houthis have choked off shipping in one of the most important waterways of the world, grinding vast swaths of global commerce to a halt, and attacking the core principle of freedom of navigation upon which international trade and commerce depends, which is one of the biggest reasons why we insist on being the world police. America, fuck yeah. Here we come to save the motherfucking day, yeah. Oh, sorry. Our brave warfighters are right now carrying out aerial attacks on the terrorist bases, leaders, and missile defense systems to protect American shipping, air, and naval assets and to restore navigational freedom. No terrorist force will stop American commercial and naval vessels from freely sailing in the waterways of the world. To all Houthi terrorists, your time is up and your attacks must stop starting today. If they don't, hell will rain down upon you like nothing you have ever seen before. Yeah, and this 47 sorties of F-18s flying all over Yemen to destroy Houthi infrastructure has occurred. To Iran, this is the part that unsettles me. Support for the Houthi terrorists must end immediately. Do not threaten the American people, their president, who has received one of the largest mandates in presidential history, or worldwide shipping lanes. If you do, beware, because America will hold you fully accountable, and we won't be nice about it. I mean, principally, it's not. I don't think it's wrong for the United States to go after the Houthi terrorists. They attacked United States naval vessels. That deserves swift and resolvent retaliation, which is exactly what's happening. Like I say, you got the Truman's F-18s flying off to destroy all of the Houthi infrastructure, military infrastructure. Let's see. Right. So we have this from Michael Hustis. Raw footage of the Navy Tomahawk missile and F-18 Super Hornet strikes on Houthi terror targets in Yemen, courtesy of the USS Navy or USS Harry Truman. The Truman, I think, is a Berkeley class destroyer. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. No, the Truman is an aircraft carrier. I'm sorry. It's a Nimitz class aircraft carrier. Largest aircraft carrier in the world. Largest ever made, largest ever seen. American military might and power personified. I mean, seriously, everybody else's aircraft carriers pale in comparison to the Nimitz. It's unreal. Here's bombs on target from an F-18. Good lord. Whatever all that shit was is gone now. Looks like there's some secondary explosions after the initial impact, too. Maybe it might have been a weapons depot, something like that. And that's the coast of Yemen right now. This is what happens. This is what happens when you fuck with America's boats. You don't fucking do that. And yeah, you know, Iran needs to really stop screwing around. But, man, playing with fire. Russia likes Iran. And Iran has, or presumably has, some nuclear capabilities. Presumably. I mean, they lie an awful lot in public statements and stuff, but yikes. Well, hold on now. We have this too. Houthis, how we sunk your aircraft carrier, the Red Sea is closed. Harry S. Truman, 2 hours later. Yemen is now closed. The Houthis have left the chat. Now they've repeatedly, again, even the president's statement doesn't deny this, but they've repeatedly attacked the United States naval seacraft, and everything that they send is completely unsuccessful. They send drones, we shoot them down. They shoot missiles, we shoot them down. You can't get past the Vulcan air defense of Berkeley-class destroyers, which are accompanying the aircraft carrier everywhere it goes. That's why we send carriers with a carrier strike group instead of a carrier all by itself. A carrier all by itself is one big damn floating target. But a carrier strike group is essentially an entirely fully functional, fully defended American military installation floating in the water, to include the airfield. So the Nimitz can carry something like 50 planes. So we're going to strap all of those with as many bombs as we can fit to them and destroy everything you own. Thank you for poking the bear. I do worry that tensions escalate with a potentially nuclear capable power. That is somewhat disconcerting. Maybe not for us. Maybe more so for Israel. Israel has one of the most advanced missile defense systems ever devised with the Iron Dome. But still, it's like Pandora's box. Once we go down that road, once we open that door, there's no turning back. So I can guarantee you that the Truman was not hit by Houthi missiles. This video right here is, I forget what they call this, but this is evasive maneuvers, essentially. You know, in Star Trek, when the captain says evasive maneuvers, the boat uses vectored thrust to turn extremely rapidly. The damn thing moves around a hell of a lot quicker than you'd think it'd be able to, considering how big it is. So that's what that is. That's the Navy showing off how maneuverable the Nimitz class is. It's not a disabled ship. These people are just retards. Oh, shit. Yeah, so this is the video everyone was seeing from the Truman. The first sortie of F-18s taken off and headed for Yemen. They did it again later that night after the Yemeni Houthis claimed to have destroyed the Truman. What's up, Fire? It's good to see you. It was complete trash. I assure you. The Truman and its battle group are perfectly fine. At this point, they're engaged in a battle, so the DoD is going to be radio silent to the public about what's going on there for what we call OPSEC, operational security. Right? Can't tell you what they're doing. It might put them at risk, but there's no way in hell that a bunch of rednecks off the coast of Yemen managed to sink one of the most advanced aircraft carriers in the world. That much I can assure you. Yeah. Pretty boring. Today's been pretty boring. But yeah, so that's an interesting thing. Asmongold is based,
Maintenance from
which I'm surprised by. And I just hope that Trump doesn't open a can of worms with fucking Iran. Now, one of the things that has happened recently, too, was that Trump confirmed... Well, shit. This is why I should probably have a stack of stuff pulled up ready to go before I start streaming. Yeah, Asmongold has good takes 1/3 of the time, for sure. I know what I'm looking for, and I'm not finding it. So hold on, let me try to hunt this down a little bit while I talk about it. Okay, so it was revealed from Trump or the White House that the talks with Putin revolved around quite a few things, but one of them was the fact that Putin and Trump agreed there shouldn't be some rebel group in Yemen threatening the existence of Israel. So that was encouraging about it. That's the one encouraging thing that's come about as a result of it. And that Putin's open to ending the war. I'd love to see an end to hostilities in Ukraine, I'll tell you that. Yikes, I was hurting my freaking eyeballs. But the other part of it was that there shouldn't be a group of rebels in Yemen that are threatening the state of Israel. So if that's true, Iran's biggest backer is Russia. So Russia has, the diplomatic ties to pull back the reins on Iran, and the U.S. can eliminate the Houthis to take care of that. That's probably not a problem just for the aircraft sorties coming off the Harry Truman. But I think we're gonna need Russia to pull the reins on Iran, though. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm hopeful that such will be the case. Time will tell. Here we go. All right. So this is from Truth Social. Trump and Putin agree that we need lasting peace in Ukraine, and ceasefire talks are underway. They even began talks about Iran and Israel. In addition, it sounds like the U.S. and Russia are normalizing economic relations, which will change the world. Peace is possible. I'm seeing this from RT on Twitter, that Trump promised a lot of trade with Russia, which isn't a bad idea. I mean, they own a shit ton of natural resources, and if they're getting something out of the deal, then maybe they can feel better about giving back Donbass to Ukraine or whatever. Right? I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but it's all about the leverage, and the U.S. has leverage in economic buying power. Russia has leverage with natural resources. Ukraine has leverage with natural resources. Russia has leverage with, the war effort is definitely in their favor. Yeah. It boils down to a balancing game at the end of the day. But in order for everybody to come out, somewhat on top at the end of the day, and for the fighting to stop, there's going to have to be concessions. One kind or another. But yeah, this is from the readout of Trump's call with Putin. So this is a public statement from the White House. The leader spoke broadly about the Middle East as a region of potential cooperation to prevent future conflicts. They further discussed the need to stop proliferation of strategic weapons and will engage with others to ensure the broadest possible application. Two leaders shared the view that Iran should never be in a position to destroy Israel. Two leaders agreed that a future with an improved bilateral relationship between the United States and Russia has a huge upside, includes economic deals, geopolitical stability, when peace has been achieved. Yeah, the conflict in Ukraine should never have started and should have been ended long ago with sincere and good faith peace efforts. The leaders agreed that the movement to peace will begin with an energy and infrastructure ceasefire, as well as technical negotiations on the implementation of a maritime ceasefire in the Black Sea, full ceasefire and permanent peace. These negotiations will begin immediately in the Middle East. So they're meeting in the Middle East in order to have these discussions, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, that's the one good thing about it. So our negotiations with Russia and trying to be on good terms with Russia is going to be what stops Iran from turning the Houthi, rebel bullshit into a much bigger issue. Let's just put it that way. Pentagon confirms U.S. aid to Ukraine turned back on. Yeah, they did that when Ukraine agreed to the ceasefire. I remember. That was part of getting Ukraine to agree to the ceasefire. Otherwise, fucking Zelensky would have turned it down. Like a retard. But what's up, Boomer Bob? How you doing, man? Should I buy a Tesla or vandalize one? I'm confused. I would buy one. But that's just me. That actually gives us a good segue to go into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is on Ted Cruz's podcast. Not that anybody actually watches that, but on Ted Cruz's podcast, Elon Musk appeared. Dun, dun, dun. And he had a really interesting conversation with the guy. I'm going to take a look at this and try to react to a few things that they were talking about.
Welcome. It is Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz. Ben Ferguson with you. And today is a really fun day, Senator, because we have a special guest and we're in a special place. I'm going to let you do the rest of the intro.
Well, we're in the White House right now, and we're here with my friend Elon Musk, who really has not been doing much of anything, has not made any news, and nobody has noticed the impact. Welcome, Elon.
Thank you.
Holy crap.
Yes, wow.
Let me just say,
never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. The first 50 days the president has spent in office, over the top. And the first 50 days you've spent, I don't think there's ever been anyone to have an impact the way you have at the beginning. Well, let me start with a question you know a lot about. Which was worse, the mess you found at Twitter or the mess you found in the federal government?
Well, it's hard to compete with the federal government.
What surprised you about the federal government? I assume you came in and assumed it was bad. Is it worse than you expected?
It is worse than I expected, but on the plus side, that means there's more opportunity for improvement. So if you look on the bright side, there's actually a lot of opportunity for improvement in federal government expenditures because it's so bad. If it was a well-run ship, it would be very difficult to improve.
So
so now it's like if people say, well, how do you figure out how to save money in the federal government? Well, it's like being in a room where the walls, the roof, and the floor are all targets. So you shoot in any direction.
Yeah, and you're
you
going to
can't
win.
miss.
Wow.
I'm sure you would agree.
So a lot of folks have talked about like
you can't miss.
You can't miss.
You can't miss. Yeah, just go any direction.
a lot of the crazy expenditures, things like $2 million for sex change surgeries in Guatemala,
An essential.
transgendered mice and Sesame Street in Iraq. A lot of that has gotten attention, but some of the stuff you've told me about, tell us about computer licenses in government agencies.
Yeah. So most of what Doge is finding, you don't need to be Sherlock Holmes. Okay, it's very obvious, basic stuff. So in every government department, I say every because we've not yet found a single exception. There are far too many software licenses and media subscriptions, meaning many more software licenses and media subscriptions than there are humans in the department.
Like you were saying, like an agency with 15,000 people might have 30,000 licenses.
Yes.
and even of the 15,000 employees, a good chunk of them hadn't used the license, had never logged on or used the application.
Yes. We found entire situations of software licenses or media subscriptions where there were 0 logins.
Wow.
So it had
and yet we were paying for it.
Yes, so the government was paying for thousands of licenses of software or media subscriptions, and no one had ever logged in even once.
But no, Elon Musk is stealing all your personal data. He's trying to steal money out of your, grandmother's retirement in order to cut spending somehow. That tracks in a Democrat's mind. I swear, and it's literally like when he talks about it too. He says the fraud to waste ratio is about 20 to 80%. It's mostly waste is what they're dealing with. It's just the government is just not a good steward of taxpayer fucking money, and he's saving billions and billions and billions of dollars. But no, this is the modern day Hitler, you guys. We need to go and burn down every Tesla dealership in the United States for democracy, right?
Like credit cards, you found the same thing with government credit cards.
We found that there are twice as many credit cards as there are humans.
That's just
and I still
insane.
don't have a good explanation for why this is the case. And these are $10,000 limit cards, so it's a lot of money.
Is it incompetence that you're finding, or is this like the biggest money laundering scheme in the history of the world that you're finding?
Look, I think it's mostly, if you say, look, what's the waste to fraud ratio?
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's like 80% waste, 20% fraud. But you do have these sort of gray areas.
Yeah.
So,
Example
would be, so we saw a lot of payments going out of Treasury that had no payment code and no explanation for the payment, and then we're trying to figure out what that payment is, and we'd see that, okay, that contract was supposed to be shut off, but someone forgot to shut off that contract, and so the company kept getting money.
Wow.
Now, is that...
I mean, you could explain a lot of software licenses with just that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
You just buy them in bulk and then, forget about the ones you didn't use.
Now, is that waste or fraud?
Yeah, both.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
But
both.
it's
You're getting something
because
you're not supposed to get.
you're not supposed to get it, but the government sent it to you, and nobody from the government asked for it back. Or take, for example, the $1.9 billion given to Stacey Abrams, a fake NGO.
Utter insanity.
Explain that. Forget
that's
it. Don't know the
That's
story.
That's corrupt.
Yeah.
That's just corrupt, I think. That's paying off cronies at that point.
1,000%.
Yeah. And by the way, she knew. Like when you get $2 billion, you don't miss that. That's not...
It's not an accident.
That's not...
Allegedly, it was for environmentally friendly appliances or something, and they've given like 100 appliances so far for $2 billion. It's a very expensive toaster or whatever.
But they're really nice.
What are the appliances? Like a
That
nuclear
Sub-Zero
reactor?
fridge, boy, it's nice.
Right. This is obviously one of the biggest scam fraud holes we've uncovered, which is really crazy. Is that the government can give money to a so-called nonprofit with very few controls, and then there's no auditing subsequently of that nonprofit. So there's no. So this is where with the $1.9 billion to Stacey Abrams, they then give themselves extremely lavish, like insane salaries, expense everything to the nonprofit, buy jets and homes and all sorts of things.
Live like kings and queens.
Yes.
On the taxpayer dime.
Correct.
You mentioned...
And this is happening at scale. It's not just one or two. We're seeing this everywhere.
Now, one of the things you told me
All
about
over Washington.
is what you
It's
call
insane.
magic money computers at the Treasury. So tell us about it, because I never heard of that until you brought that up.
Okay, so you may think that that the government computers all talk to each other. They synchronize. They add up what funds are going somewhere, and it's coherent. There's
Oh no, of
and
course.
that the numbers, for example, that you're presented as a senator, are actually the real numbers.
No. All the government systems are based on the bureaucracy of doing all of this by hand and by paper in the first place. And when the government started implementing computers into its record-keeping stratagem, what they did was they built a whole bunch of disparate, separate systems that don't talk to each other, and the left hand literally doesn't know what the right hand is doing. 100%, dude, 100%. In fact, within some departments, you probably have a striation of several different isolated systems that account for that department's record keeping, right? Especially with the DoD, right? I guarantee you the Air Force has intel and fucking information that the Army doesn't have, and the Army has shit that the Marine Corps doesn't have, and the Marine Corps has shit that the Navy doesn't have. You know what I'm saying? And it takes people who used to just be paper pushers to go from one filing cabinet to another in order to transfer that information across. Now it falls in the hands of secretaries and undersecretaries and secretary to the undersecretary kind of fucking people to go and try to coordinate between departments. This shit is just mad. And so that's a whole fucking fiefdom of hierarchy that you could fire if all the computer systems were actually integrated into one another and to one unifying system. But that's by design, says Boomer Bob. To some extent with the military I could understand, but when it comes to something like how does the EPA or the FDA fucking know what the fuck they're talking about, that doesn't make sense. You know, a lot of this stuff is public knowledge in the first place, but it all just needs to be collated and unified in a much more simplified system in my mind.
One would think.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they're not totally wrong, but they're probably off by 5% or 10% in some cases. So I call a magic money computer any computer which can just make money out of thin air. That's magic money.
So how does that work?
It just issues payments.
And you said there's something like 11 of these computers at Treasury that are sending out trillions in payments?
They're mostly at Treasury. Some are, but there's some at HHS, some at, there's one or two at State, there's some at DOD. I think we found now 14 magic money computers.
14, okay.
They just send money out of nothing.
You have
That's fucking nuts. That is fucking insane. But Heavy says the only issues with Doge for me is creating bureaucracy. Centralized backdoor access all of government, and that Doge is merely the regurgitation of Paul's Festivus report. I 100% agree that it is. Right? One thing Doge does not do is it does not actually force the cuts necessarily. What is it? It's a recommendation to the department head, to the agency head, to say, okay, look, here's where we found a bunch of waste. Here's where we found a little bit of fraud. You need to take care of these issues. You need to fire this many people. But if you don't do it, then we're going to do it. So leave it up to the department head, the person who should understand the best and most efficient way to accomplish this task. But if they don't comply with the order of the executive, then Doge will come in and actually make that cut. So in a way, it's much more authoritative than the Festivus report, but at the same time, it is the same content and the same scrutiny of the budget that Rand Paul does every year, and I love that. And now we're actually seeing rubber hit the road with the Festivus report, so I think that's a good thing.
an ability to see where leverage.
Yeah, Boomer Bob says we need state and local Doge. That's true. We got one coming into Kentucky. I'm super psyched. I don't know how well it's going to work or if it's going to work, but I'm psyched about it. I think it'll be fucking fantastic if it does. But we can do something like that.
Points are and how things actually happen. So I remember back, I think it was September, October of this year, before the election, we didn't know who was going to win, and I was at your house in Austin. We were talking about it, and you said, you said, look, I don't want a job in Washington, and you said, all I want is the login for every computer. And, and I remember thinking at the time that sounded kind of weird, like I just didn't get it. And I have to say, what's interesting on this, if I would have thought, like, okay, how do you reform government? Like, sort of the traditional way to think about it is, okay, give me an org chart, let me sit down with the people who are running agencies. And what you saw immediately is to understand what's really going on, get to the payment systems, get to the computers.
Yeah.
Why is getting to the computers so critical to understanding what's actually happening?
Well, the government is run by computers. So you've got essentially several hundred computers that effectively run the government. And if you want to know...
Did you know that, Ben?
No.
Yeah. So when somebody, like even when the president issues an executive order, that's got to go through a whole bunch of people until ultimately it is implemented at a computer somewhere. And if you want to know what the situation is with the accounting and you're trying to reconcile accounting and get rid of waste and fraud, you must be able to analyze the computer databases. Otherwise, you can't figure it out. Because all you're doing is asking a human who will then ask another human, and finally usually ask some contractor who will ask another contractor to do a query on the computer.
Wow.
That's how it actually works.
Yeah, it all boils down to databases. And again, it all used to be paper filing cabinets, rooms full of filing cabinets, or you'd have these cabinet systems on like rails. Sometimes you see this at archivist places or at the, in the basement of a hospital or a morgue, something like that, where they have to keep records for years and years and years and decades. Sometimes that shit racks up and it gets really big. And if there's a paper requirement for that record, well, you need a filing system that's capable of holding millions of records. Yeah, that gets crazy. But ultimately, the computer systems that the government operates on are simply replicating this paper document trail that ties everything back to bureaucracy and legal need, right? They need to upgrade to Firebase as far. That's a CDN. It's a little different. A lot of the stuff is probably going to be piped through a CDN, but you can think of a CDN as like more of a caching thing to make a shit ton of data all available simultaneously across a network where it can be queried millions of times within a few seconds without falling apart. For the publicly available stuff, you're right, they need a CDN of some kind, but I'm sure the government can provide one without contracting to AWS. But to Elon's point, they probably would anyway. Bob says most of the records at the homes of former presidents. That's a good point. It's something that we need to reconcile. We need the National Archives to reconcile that. And that's another great example of the setting that I'm talking about. You go in the bottom of the National Archives, they just have warehouses full of these rolling filing systems that are just full of millions and millions of records. Just pieces of paper, literally just pieces of paper that tie back to historical events all across, the nation's history. But it's just a matter of time before the data will fall in the wrong hands, says Heavy. We thought that during the dawn of the espionage age, with the Cold War and whatnot, that Russians would eventually find their way into the National Archives or into Fort Knox or into the CIA. And who says they haven't? Maybe they did. But, countries are going to espionage. That's always a risk. Now, we have one of the most secure international networks ever devised with SIPRNet, right? That's the classified classified intel and information network that the military uses to transfer information that no one else is supposed to see. There's special levels of authorization that you get, and everything is collated into one of its classifications: secret, top secret, president's eyes only, so on and so forth. But I don't think that's ever been cracked. I don't think that, I don't know. You don't hear people talk about the SIPRNet or how it actually works. There's a lot of good reasons for that. But essentially it is an isolated, encrypted internet that's available only to DoD personnel. Like I say, I don't think it's ever been cracked. I could be wrong, but I don't know. You go looking on some dark web, Leet Hacksaw, fucking bulletin boards, you might find somebody, peeled out some little inkling of information and then immediately got caught and sent to prison for the rest of their lives. But
so it's many layers deep. So the only way to reconcile the databases and get rid of waste and fraud is to actually look at the computers and see what's going on.
No, it's not SuperNet, Bob. It's SIPR. SIPRNet. Now, what does that stand for? I'm not sure, but something about secure information something network. But then there's another one, NipperNet. NipperNet is what soldiers use to communicate back home and to access the publicly available internet while they're overseas. Whether they're on, an installation such as Ramstein or Lakenheath, or if they're in a forward operating position, you can get some limited, fucking cell phone kind of access from those locations. But all that passes through a NipperNet node on station before it goes out to the public networks. But that's, like I say, that may as well just be the internet. What's up, Abrams? Good to see you. Fall of 2008, SIPRNet was breached. Oh, yeah? By who? What was the nature of the breach? Like I say, you might occasionally get one dude who pulls some inkling of information out that doesn't actually mean anything to anybody and then immediately go to jail for the rest of their lives. But also, are you sure it was SIPRNet and not NipperNet? That's another thing. U.S. service member stationed at DoD facility in Afghanistan inserted a thumb drive which Pentagon officials believe Russian spies infected with malicious code. Without knowing it, simple ordinary action let Moscow infiltrate SIPRNet, the Pentagon's secret internal network, in one of the most devastating security compromises in U.S. history. Well, that is very uncool. I'd be curious to know what the fallout from that actually was. But very uncool. NippleNet? I'm in. Yeah, well. not saying anything, but there's some debate over why NipperNet even exists, and that probably has a lot to do with it.
So you...
That's what I call, that's what when I sort of cryptically referred to reprogramming the matrix.
The other part of that is I think the Pentagon and DoD wants to monitor everything that every soldier is doing on the internet while they're on a military installation.
And see what's going on.
That's probably
what
it.
I call, that's what when I sort of cryptically referred to reprogramming the matrix. You have to understand what's going on at the computers. You have to reconcile the computer databases in order to identify the waste and fraud.
I don't know that there was anyone in Congress who understood, certainly myself included, who understood the leverage that comes from the computer and the data in particular. That Congress would think about, give me a report on what your expenditures are, rather than actually getting into the pipes. And I think that has been fascinating, that it's let you uncover a bunch of crap that just nobody knew.
Yes. I mean, in order for money to go to a bank account, it's not like we're sending truckloads of cash all over the place. We're wiring money.
Right.
We're sending money through the ACH system or through the SWIFT system. So in order for money to flow, it's going to flow electronically. So that's what you need to look at. You need to look at the actual electronic money flows.
And Tesla and all your companies, you have accounting and you have every expenditure, you have it coded for what it's going for. Federal government doesn't work that way. They don't code what the money's going for.
They do now.
But they didn't.
They didn't.
And like one of the things that you told me, you said if any company kept its books the way the federal government does, they'd arrest the officers and put them in jail.
Yes. If it was a public company, it would be delisted immediately. It would fail its audit. And the officers of the company would be imprisoned. That's the level of malfeasance in the federal government, unfortunately.
It's stunning.
Deliberately, or do you think this is incompetence again?
It's 80%. It's 80% incompetence and 20% malice.
So if you look at Doge now, and you look at the government and what you're finding, what percentage have you guys even gotten to, and how much of it is?
Oh, God, they probably even scratched the surface. Maybe it says pre-24 election AI bad, post-24 AI good. I think that just speaks to people and the average congressperson's understanding of AI. It's, and what and how you're using it, right? Now, AI being used to create art or prose or music, I think is detrimental to culture on the whole. So in that way, AI bad. And I think that's true of coding too, but that's looking at coding through a cultural lens rather than a functional one, right? And if you're a pure capitalist, then more code, more faster means less money, right? So it's an easy equation. So AI good, depending on your viewpoint there. But in terms of analyzing enormous data sets, like AI is the only way. That's the way we've been doing it for more than a decade, you know. But is deep learning through repeated exposure to different patterns, right? Eventually, for instance, what do we call this? I forget. But it's where you train an AI. You give it, you know, essentially a database of every image in Google Images and ask it to identify what's in the image. It showed a picture of a rabbit. It says that's a bear. Like, no, that's not a bear. Wrong. That's rabbit. Then you make a correction, right? Machine learning is what we call it. That's what it is. We've been using machine learning to identify patterns in data for more than a decade. Probably longer than that. Yeah, I would say pre-2010 is really where it began. Then, as larger companies started to embrace the ideal and the technology became more and more popular. It's like a snowball effect. But like for a while, I think banks were really wary of it, but now even banks use machine learning in order to manage their accounts and everything. Talking about the same people. Well, that's what I'm saying, Heavy. Like, there are different motivations as to why you flip flop. I think a lot of that has to do, especially in, you know, Congress, with and in the public and the constituency, with an understanding of what it is that you're talking about. We get everything that we know from the media. Half the time, the media is full of shit. They'll tell it to you the entirely wrong way. You know, AI is going to take over the world. They're going to turn the frogs gay, and then they're going to take your fucking job and give it over to a fucking computer, and you're just going to have to sit in your house and veg out for the rest of your life, and there's not even going to have any meaning to life at all. We're just going to become these pawns of the military-industrial complex, you know? Speaking of which, that's one game I got to play is Alex Jones and WO Wars. Oh, man. But, what am I saying? So there's extreme viewpoints that are going to mischaracterize the truth of the situation on either side of the aisle. You know, you got to accept that because it's absolutely fucking true. And that's going to lean people one way or the other into a misinformed understanding of the actual situation. But then as more and more information about it comes out, it becomes easier and easier to disprove these fringe theories. And then it's like, well, it's not so bad at all, is it? So, you know, and I think it's something that I have had to accept in my later years in life. I'm not saying I'm really old or anything, but I didn't really understand this until I was probably about 30, that politicians are really just kind of an aggregate of their constituency. They aren't experts in anything that they talk about. Half the time, they don't know their asshole from their elbow when they're talking about something. They're listening to the media. They're listening to the people on their staff. They're listening to letters and phone calls and emails from their constituency. They're not actual experts in anything. So a lot of times they're just as misinformed as we are. But forgot the Chi-Coms. Yeah, well, that's fair. I'm sure China would be deeply interested in that CIPRNet fault that Russia got a hold of back in 2008. Yeah, no, I think I'm vaguely familiar with that because one of the rules when we use computer systems in the laboratory at Keesler was no USB drives. That became a DoD-wide standard operating procedure. You do not stick foreign hard drives into the DoD computers under any circumstance. And yeah, politicians definitely listen to lobbyists and they're contributors the most.
Mars, where you haven't even gotten there yet because there's so much you're finding out here. I mean, how many, you seem like a timeline guy when you say, all right, I want to get in there and get all these, you know, numbers and things. How far are we from the end game where you've seen it all been able to process it all and fix it? I mean, are we years away, months away?
Not years. I mean, I'm reasonably confident that we'll be able to get $1 trillion of waste and fraud out, and that meaning that it will have, we'll have a net savings in FY26, which starts in October, obviously, of $1 trillion.
Wow!
Provided we're allowed to continue, and our progress is not impeded. And we're very public about what we do.
Yeah, you put it on the website.
It's on the website.
I don't know how we could be more transparent. Literally every action we do, small or large, we put on the Doge.gov website.
Well, let's see. Does it work with Firefox? It does. Okay, bonus points for that. Because Twitter does not. Ironically enough. But yeah, for the past 2 weeks, Social Security has begun a major cleanup of their records. Approximately 3.2 million number holders, all listed age 120 and above, have now been marked as deceased. More work still to be done. Good stuff. That's one of the biggest scandals of the fucking century, if you ask me. Millions of people. 3 million Social Security holders are 120 years old or older. That's fucking insane. That's exactly the type of shit that we need to be cleaning up. You know what I mean? Of course, you got Democrats out here saying that, oh, Republican Trump voters are regretting Doge now, aren't they? Because they're cutting Social Security. No, I wouldn't call this cutting Social Security. Like, this is literally accounting for accounting errors and making corrections to correct those errors. That's not cutting anything. But it will result in the Social Security Administration costing the federal government less money at the end of the day. So there's that.
And we post on the X handle. And when people complain about it, and they say, "Oh, you're doing something unconstitutional," I'm like, "Well, which of these cost
savings?" You're doing it in the daylight. I mean, everyone knows exactly what you're doing.
Extreme transparency.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's been this transparent ever.
So 5 years ago, you were a hero to the left. You were cool. You had electric cars. You had space. And in 5 years, you've gone.
I could go to a party in Hollywood and not get dirty looks.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah.
And
now you might not even get invited.
I think it's
still get invited, but I don't know if I should go.
And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say today, after Donald Trump, the left hates you more than any person on earth.
Yes, I appear to be number 2. I mean, if you're judged by the various signs.
CFR.
It's derangement. It's Trump derangement syndrome and Elon derangement syndrome.
Yes.
How is that for you? That's a little bit of whiplash of going from being like Mr. Cool to the devil incarnate in just a couple of years. Is that kind of weird to experience that transformation?
Yes.
Why do they hate you so much?
Well, because we're clearly over the target. If Doge was ineffective,
exactly.
If we were not actually getting rid of a bunch of waste and fraud, and a bunch of that fraud, I mean, the fraud we're seeing is overwhelmingly on the left.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not zero on the right, but these NGOs are almost all left-wing NGOs that are being funded, for example.
Yep.
So they hate me because Doge is being effective, and Doge is getting rid of a lot of waste and fraud that people on the left were taking advantage of.
Exactly. You're threatening to take away their fucking lunchbox, man. I love to see him fucking squirm. I love to see him squirm because anybody who cries out against this is clearly tied up in the corruption of it. Everything they're doing is as transparent as it could possibly be. And what they're doing seems to be responsibly focusing on areas of waste and areas of, mischaracterizations and misnomer records. And people who aren't doing anything, people who aren't responding to basic emails and just cutting the waste. That's, what do you say, 80% of what they're doing. So. Abrams says slush funds going away, kickbacks going away. Hell yeah. That's what they're pissed off about. he needs to look in on Republicans. Well, he is. He said he found some, but it's overwhelmingly on the left. Because that's who's taking all the fucking money. I mean, Republicans aren't funding NGOs to spread Christianity in the Congo, or to preach American values to Native Americans in tribal areas where public schools aren't allowed or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Instead, they're doing what it says on the tin. We're sending aid to Uganda to help with relief efforts, or we're sending aid to Israel, as we always do every single year, perfectly open and honest about it. The left will say, oh, well, this is to feed hungry people in Afghanistan, and it ends up going to some fucking trade company that sends it to FTX in Ukraine, which sends it back to the Democrat National Committee in the United States. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit is fucked up. Or it's people claiming Social Security on somebody who's been dead for 40 years and is living in the country illegally and isn't the citizen of the United States in the first fucking place. Oh, but we need to be humanitarian. We need to worry about those people, though. They're people too, right? They're not American citizens, and half of them are fucking criminals in the first damn place. And defrauding the American people, the American taxpayer, is a crime. So, go fuck yourself.
That's what it comes down to. And the single biggest thing that they're worried about is that Doge is going to turn off fraudulent payments of entitlements. I mean, everything from Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, disability, small business administration loans, turn them off to illegals. This is the crux of the matter.
Yep.
Okay. This is the thing that why they really hate my guts and want me to die.
And do you think that's billions, hundreds of billions? What do you think the scale is of that?
I think across the country, it's well north of 100 billion, maybe 200 billion. So by using entitlements fraud, the Democrats have been able to attract and retain vast numbers of illegal immigrants.
And buy voters.
And buy voters, exactly. It basically bring in, 10, 20 million people who are beholden to the Democrats for government handouts and will vote overwhelmingly Democrat, as has been demonstrated in California. This is
it's an election strategy.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's power.
Yes. And it doesn't take much to turn the swing states blue. I mean, often a swing state might be won by 10, 20,000 votes.
Sure.
So if the Dems can bring in 200,000 illegals and over time get them legalized, not counting any cheating that takes place, because there is some cheating, but even without cheating, if you bring in illegals that are 10x the voter differential in a swing state, it will no longer be a swing state.
Right.
And the Dems will win all the swing states, just a matter of time, and America will be permanent, deep blue socialist state. The House, the Senate, the presidency, and the Supreme Court will all go hardcore Dem. They will then further cement that by bringing in even more aliens, so you can't vote your way out of it.
Their objective is to make it
one-party socialist state, and it'll be much worse than California, because at least California is mitigated by the fact that someone can leave California.
Right, you can go to Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you did.
They're going to make everywhere California but worse.
By the way, the middle of the pandemic, I spent 45 minutes on the phone with Elon. He was still in California. I was walking my dog, Snowflake, and trying to convince you, come to Texas. The commies in California can't stand you.
Hold on a minute. Ted Cruz has a dog named Snowflake. What the hell? Yeah, Abrams asked, when are we getting a peek in Fort Knox? Think it will ever happen? Probably not. Probably not. I don't think there's an ounce of gold in there. I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't think there's an ounce of gold. I don't know what they're keeping in those safes. Probably the Epstein files. And I don't think we'll ever get to look inside.
We love you. We want you here.
Yeah.
And you didn't quite go then, but you went not that long afterwards.
I mean, the COVID actions almost killed Tesla, because they let every other auto plant in the country was allowed to open, but ours which was in California, was not allowed to open.
Wow.
So they almost killed Tesla.
He has another
So,
dog named N-word.
As a personal matter, do you ever regret it? Like 5 years ago, you go to the Oscars and we're Mr. Cool, and now you've got death threats every day. Like, do you?
Well, these days the Oscars are boring. I wouldn't want to go.
God bless the movies they nominate. No one on earth has ever seen. Like, could they actually nominate a movie that human beings go watch?
I mean,
No,
how
we
many
don't
great
watch
movies
anything
have
anymore. The
come out in
fucking
the last
Hollywood
several years?
is
Very
more
few.
corrupt than
Depressing,
Washington. Man.
Yeah, very few. The last Oscars came and went. I didn't watch it. There's nothing to see.
I was sad that Gene Hackman just passed away because Unforgiven
Yeah, God
was
rest his soul.
spectacular. But that was a long time ago that Unforgiven came out.
That's really a strange case too.
Today here and before about the possibility of someone wanting to take you out, dealing with the death threats. We
Yes,
see
it's not in my imagination. You can just look on social media.
Yeah.
But like, is it
They make that very
because
clear.
Yeah, and look, I'm very familiar with that.
And they've got signs. There are people with signs and demonstrations saying that I need to die.
Do you think, are these just whack jobs, or do you think
Well,
there
definitely
are,
whack jobs. Hopefully.
foreign...
They're not sane people.
Yeah.
Do you think there are foreign entities behind this? Do you think there are domestic entities behind the threats and also the attacks to Twitter, or not Twitter, Tesla? I mean, you know, you're getting Tesla's charging stations lit on fire. Do you think that's organized and paid
Just
for?
that fucking whole dealerships
Yes.
now.
At least some of it is organized and paid for. I think by domestic, you know.
I agree with
basically
term limits,
left-wing
Abrams. I'm with you on that.
organizations in America, funded by left-wing billionaires, essentially.
Is it like Act Blue or what?
Act Blue is one of them. You know, there's Arabella. You know, the classic. It's funded by the, you know, the blue, basically the left-wing NGO cabal.
how big of a threat is this to like
George Soros. He doesn't want to say it, but I'll say it. Fucking George Soros.
what you build at Tesla? I mean, I remember when Teslas came out, it was people that they didn't want to have gas cars.
And isn't that fucked up? Like, we all know what's happening. You know, he's sitting here admitting it. The Democrats are funding NGOs that are funding activists and protests that are resulting in persisted and invasive attacks against dealerships at his company, specifically because they disagree with his politics and what he's doing in Washington right now. This is not political speech. It's domestic terrorism. It's totally fucked up. Most people deserve to be in jail, man. And people like Alex Soros and Act Blue are funding it and paying for it. And, you know, Democrats are pushing money towards NGOs that work in congruence with Act Blue and Democrat activist fucking organizations in order to do this kind of shit. It's an Ouroboros. It's a snake eating itself. Again, I swear, I don't think the Democrats have any goal in mind except the destruction of the country at large. They really do. Slap them with felonies. This heavy, yeah, definitely slap them with felonies. That, yeah. Fucking ruins their life. They're in jail for, what, 15 years? They get out in 3 on good behavior or whatever, maybe 2. And they're a felon for the rest of their life. That's exactly what they wanted to do to Trump. And it's fucked, man. It's a tit for tat, but fuck these motherfuckers. We can't allow this kind of shit to continue. It's totally fucked up. This is not free speech. Burning down a Tesla dealership is not free speech. Burning down a Wendy's isn't free speech. Burning down a fucking post office or CNN's fucking headquarters, as much as I laughed at that, isn't fucking free speech. There's a way to demonstrate publicly without breaking the law. And Democrats repeatedly refuse to adhere to that. That's not free speech.
A lot of it was environmental reasons. I jokingly said, I was like, I'm a Texas guy. I'm always going to have something that burns gas. My kids now, all 3 of my boys, think that Teslas are awesome. The Cybertruck is the car they want their dad to buy, which I laugh because I never could have imagined that 5 years ago. And now I'm looking at...
Well, we're at the White House and the president's Tesla is parked right outside the West Wing, which is the coolest damn thing.
But I mean, you've changed a generation. When you look at my kids are 6 and 8 and they're going, Dad, buy a Cybertruck. And I'm considering it. That's a full circle in a weird way.
Yeah. Well, I do have this theory that the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. So, yeah, it seems often to be true. You see, like, what twist or turn of fate would generate the highest ratings? If we were a TV show, what twist or turn of fate would generate the highest ratings? There's a good chance that happens.
Well, I will say if Act Blue and Arabella Networks...
Act Blue is a huge scam, next level.
Do you think it's foreign money, Chinese money? Where do you think the money in Act Blue is coming from? And how do you figure that out?
Well, it's not coming from a whole bunch of, from a groundswell of public support. Because when individual donors are looked at in Act Blue, they eventually turn out to be like diehard Republicans,
right?
People that have never given money in their life. So you're going to track down a bunch of these people where it says, oh, I gave $16,000. And they're like, I didn't give $16,000. What are you talking about?
Well, if those
Republican friends of mine found themselves on the Act Blue list, and they're like, it definitely wasn't me. So that's...
If it can actually be shown that they are funding firebombing of Tesla charging stations, that's objectively a criminal act. That is funding terrorist activity,
right.
and the statutes make clear that an incendiary device qualifies. So that's a big
down
deal.
Is a terrorist activity. Yeah.
Let me ask AI. In 10 years, how is life going to be different because of AI for just a normal person?
Well, 10 years is a long time. In 10 years, probably AI could do anything better than a human can, cognitively. Probably almost, I think in 10 years, based on the current rate of improvement, AI will be smarter than the smartest human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, man, 10 years? No. We're almost there already. Go ahead. Ask Grok to search for something for you. And then try to fact check it. You know? I was working with DuckDuckGo's AI a little bit the other day. And I was asking it about Secretary of Defense and how often has a Secretary of Defense held a Purple Heart or been awarded a Purple Heart. And it came up with Secretary Mattis is the first and only Secretary of Defense to have been awarded the Purple Heart. And I had to correct it and say, I asked, hasn't Pete Hegseth been awarded a Purple Heart? And it was like, oh yeah, Pete Hegseth totally has a Purple Heart, dude. I was like, okay, then who is the current Secretary of Defense? And Grok was like, well, it's, as of my last information update, it was Lloyd Austin, General Lloyd Austin. I was like, well, after this date, after January 20th, 2025, Trump nominated Pete Hegseth at Secretary of Defense, and on some date, I looked up the date, on some date in March, the Senate confirmed it. And Grok was like, well, I don't know anything about that because I haven't been updated since 2023. I was like, oh. Or it was ChatGPT is the engine that DuckDuckGo was using. I was like, oh, really? So it had current and updated information that had the correct answer, but finding all this information and making this determination about how many SecDefs have actually had a Purple Heart, it was perfectly able to figure all of that out in just an instant. So in 10 years, you know, it'll probably not only know the current state of affairs, but it'll be able to accurately predict future states of affairs based on current trends and the way things have been fucking going. Wouldn't surprise me.
There will also be a massive number of robots. So humanoid robots.
By the way, I gotta ask.
Like I say, just think about all of the shit that AI can do in other applications, right? Like you can have it make art, you can have it make music, you can have it make movies and scenes from movies. You see all of this stuff where, you know, what if Zelda was a 1950s panel vision fucking 2-hour movie, you know, and here's a trailer for it. They just spit it out in a matter of minutes. Boom, done. This shit's astounding what it can do. So I have no idea what that future means for humanity, but I can only hope it is more like Star Trek and less like Terminator. You know, but it's a fucking coin flip at this point.
How come your robots look so much like the creepy robots from iRobot? Was that intentional or just...
I was hoping he was going to say, yeah, just to mess with you.
It's not meant to look like any prior robot. We'll iterate the design. You'll be able to have... A lot of the robot parts are cosmetic. You'll be able to switch out the kind of snap-on cosmetic parts of the robot to make it look like something else if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be ultimately billions of humanoid
Space
robots.
balls. Yeah, maybe.
All cars will be self-driving.
Ludicrous speed.
In 10 years, probably 90% of miles driven will be autonomous.
Huh.
Wow.
That fast?
Yeah. In 5 years, probably 50% of all miles driven will be autonomous.
Now, if AI will be smarter than any
No.
person...
Oh, okay.
how
Let's
many
remember
jobs-
that. Let's put a pin in that and fucking mark it. 90% or 50% of all miles driven will be autonomous in 5 years. I don't know about that, man. I think that's optimistic. I really do. Because right now, the only cars that have autonomous drive, quote unquote, are Teslas. Yeah, I'm with you, Abrams. I like being in control too. My vehicle's not even capable of such a thing. So it's a 2005. It doesn't even have a computer in it, as we would call it. It has an ECU to manage fuel, but that's about it.
go away because
And I
of
don't
that.
think it's working right because
And
it
what do
burns
people
awfully
do?
rich when
You've
it's
got
cold.
millions of people that are losing their jobs like that. A lot of people are understandably freaked out about that.
Well, goods and services will become as close to free. So it's not as though people will be wanting in terms of goods and services.
So why is that? Why are goods and services free in an AI world, or close to free?
Well, you have, I don't know, call it tens of billions of robots. That they will make you anything or provide any service you want for basically next to nothing. It's not that people will have a lower standard of living; they'll have actually a much higher standard of living. The challenge will be fulfillment. How do you derive fulfillment and meaning in life?
Is Skynet real? Like you get the apocalyptic visions of AI. How real is the prospect of...
I'm telling you, man, that's what it is. And Elon's vision of fucking AI is Star Trek, or that movie Artificial Intelligence. You remember that movie Artificial Intelligence with the kid? I see dead people, you know, and that freaking robot and everything. The whole premise of society at that point in technological development was that we had gotten to the point where AI was completely autonomous and they were essentially another race of intelligent creatures on the planet, right? I want to say humanity, but obviously you can't say that about metal machines. But there's been a lot of interesting commentary about the subject over the years, but here's how Elon's planning to pull it off.
Wow, that's really incredible. Oh my goodness.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Spare no expense. Spare no expense. Wonderful machine. Incredible. Incredible.
And it's waterproof?
Yes, water will not short it. No.
And it's really heavy duty.
Okay!
What's going on?
Okay! What is wrong with
the battery? The battery is tired. Yes. When the robot gets tired, you see, you have to let it back into its charging station.
I'm so sorry. Is it okay?
Oh, it's perfectly all right.
And it just goes in there and recharges its battery?
Yes, recharges its battery. Yes, let me demonstrate. Is it my shift already?
Yeah, man. I'm sorry. I'm really tired. That woman hit me good, too.
Okay. And then in 1 moment, it should be back out, fully charged. 1 moment. This 1 moment should be out in just 1 moment. you want me to send you back to the factory? The factory. Do you want me to send you back to the factory? Hold on. Do you know who the president is right now? One phone call. That's all I need. One phone call.
I'm not doing it.
Yes, you are.
I don't care.
Get out right now.
I'm not doing it.
No,
No,
get out.
we're not doing it anymore.
There you go. You see?
F.
You solve two problems with one stone right there. Immigration and how are we going to get AI to do all the labor in the world, right?
Why? One moment, ma'am. Sorry about this. There's a little slit here for a broom or a taser. Sometimes they just need a little push out. Out!
Oh! Fine, buddy, fine!
It can feel pain?
Beep!
That is mostly what it feels, yes.
Boop!
And now you give it commands.
Beep!
TeslaBot, pick up the broom.
Boop!
Put it back. At least once per day, you need to place a sandwich of some kind into this slot here on the counter.
Sandwich?
Yes, for the machine runs on biomatter, actually. It's very high tech.
Boop!
I said, put the broom away.
Beep!
Oh, you know what? You know what I just remembered? It only needs one sandwich a week.
Boop.
Yes, just once a week. That's
Beep,
it. That's
beep,
all.
beep, 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 beep,
Oh, you're gonna put the broom away?
Boop!
You're gonna put the broom. Good. 2 sandwiches a day. Water too, for coolant, of course.
Got it.
Okay, that'll be $46,000.
Here you go.
Thank you. Congratulations. You've purchased a small piece of the future. Congratulations. I will now be on my way. Tesla, drive me to 87 Arroyo Lane.
Yes, sir.
Faster. Would you like to drive to the border instead?
Classic shit as usual. It was a pretty good Elon impression, but I don't know, man. He could have done better. That's how he's gonna do it, though, you know? Instead of having to make realistically human-like robots, he just replace them with Mexicans.
Of killer robots annihilating humanity.
20% likely. Maybe
Wow.
10%.
On what time frame?
5 to 10 years.
So soon, like you see a world where that's possible.
Yeah, but I mean, you could look at it like the glass is 80 to 90% full, meaning like 80% likely will have extreme prosperity for all.
Now, I guess my view, we're in a race to win AI. We're in a race with China. And my view is if they're going to be killer robots, I'd rather they be American killer robots than Chinese. How likely are we winning right now? Is America winning right now? And how likely is America to win the race for AI vis-a-vis China or anyone else?
For the next few years, I think America is likely to win. Then it will be a function of who controls the AI chip fabrication. The factories that make the AI chips, who controls them? If more of them are controlled by China, then China will win.
More of the factories that are making the AI chips.
That's a frightening thought, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that most of those, in terms of worldwide global production, are in Taiwan. Which, yeah, granted, ally in our control technically for the time being, but look what China just did with Hong Kong. What's to stop them from going after Taiwan next? Except for the United States Navy, and we're all caught up with Ukraine, Russia, and Yemen right now. So it's very curious. I do postulate there is a flight of B-52s that fly out of Guam. I'm pretty sure that they store nuclear weapons there. Don't quote me on that. That's probably the only thing holding China at bay, if I had to guess. The only thing protecting Guam is the United States Navy. So, which, something that fucking commies love to argue is actually outnumbered by Chinese ships. But in terms of tonnage, the United States Navy is actually a whole lot heavier and a whole lot bigger than the entire Chinese Navy, despite the fact that China has more ships. So that's an interesting fact. I digress.
You think that will determine it?
Yes.
And how are we doing versus China on that front?
Well, right now, almost all the advanced AI chip factories, they call them fabs, are in Taiwan.
And what if China invades Taiwan?
69 miles away from.
Yeah. What happens if China? If China invades Taiwan, what happens to the world?
Well, if they were to invade in the near term, the world would be cut off from advanced AI chips.
And
currently, 100% of advanced AI chips are made in Taiwan.
How fast could we put that online in America, and how important is that for national security?
I think it's essential for national security, and we're not doing enough.
You're 53 years old. I'm 118 days older than you. By the way, what the hell have I done in my life?
I know, right?
53 years old.
You're doing pretty well.
Well,
so 71 was a great year.
And I was December 70, so I was just right before.
Okay.
You were the summer of 71.
I was born 69 days after 420.
Wow. I did ask Ben.
This is true.
Look,
this is true. All right, you just opened up the can of words.
I did ask Ben, should I show up and pull up a joint and say, can we beat Rogan's views? But I was pretty sure it might cause a scandal if we smoked pot in the White House.
It just turned out.
Oh shit! Fire! There you go, Boomer Bob. He would have done it if he's not a sitting senator.
It might cause a scandal if we smoked pot in the White House.
It just turned out to be like a chocolate cigar.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, if today was your last day on Earth.
Yeah. What?
I'm not suggesting it's going to be, but if it were, what do you think your biggest legacy would be? Of everything you've done, 100 years from now, what do you think people would remember if it were 0 to today?
And will you ever go to space?
In the distant future, 100 or 1,000 years ago, if SpaceX got humans to Mars, that's what they would remember me for.
All right, final set of questions. Who's the smartest guy you've ever met? You hang out with some brilliant people. Like when you look, what's a CEO you look at other than yourself? What CEO do you say, damn, that guy's good?
Larry Ellison's very smart. So I'll say Larry Ellison's one of the smartest people. Larry Page. I mean, there are a lot of people that are very smart. It's hard to say, like.
I love how his mind went from one Larry to another Larry.
I think to some degree smart is as smart does. So, what have they done that is difficult and significant? Jeff Bezos has done a lot of difficult and significant things. There are a lot of smart humans. I call them smart for a human. A lot of people who are in the smart for a human category.
All right, final lightning round. Star Wars or Star Trek?
The first movie I saw in the theater was Star Wars, so I think it had a profound effect on me. I was 6 years old, I think. Imagine if the first movie you ever see in a theater is Star Wars, it's going to blow your mind.
Best Star Wars movie?
Empire Strikes Back.
The only objectively right answer. I stood in line for 3 hours with my dad to see it on opening day. Kirk or Picard?
I like them both, but Kirk.
Again, objectively right answer. By the way, James T. Kirk is a Republican and Picard is a Democrat, and the left gets very mad when I say that.
Yeah.
Best Star Trek movie?
The first Star Trek movie, maybe?
Now that's in.
Wrath of Khan. Wrath of Khan. Actually, both Wrath of Khans were pretty good. But yeah, the original Wrath of Khan.
Ricardo Montalban. Revenge is a dish best served cold. It is very cold in space. Yeah. Although I will say, Wrath of Khan is objectively the right answer, but 4 is a sleeper. When they go back to San Francisco and go find the whales, and Scotty picks up the mouth and talks to it, then goes, a keyboard, how quaint. That's a sleeper. All right, last question.
Okay, all right. Ted Cruz just lost all credibility in my eye when it comes to fucking American sci-fi or American folklore at large. You cannot. Star Trek 4 is objectively the absolute worst fucking movie ever made. Star Trek movies in general suck. But Star Trek 4 is the worst of them. Literally the fucking worst. Wrath of Khan is, of course, the correct answer. Yes. That is the best Star Trek ever made. But I have to say, like, when you compare the two, and I'm a Trekkie, okay? I'm extremely familiar with Star Trek. I've watched just, like, all of the old shit, except for the original series and the animated series. I'll admit, I missed out on that. I watched some of the original series, but if you ask me, like, where did this pivotal event occur at what point in the series, I have no idea. You know, you ask me questions like that about Next Generation or Voyager or Deep Space Nine, even, I can give you at least an approximate answer. But between the two, I think Star Wars is actually much more of an American folklore story, at least the original trilogy, and even the prequels, right? Even those two smashed together, the George Lucas joint, you know what I'm saying? Not the Disney shit that came afterward, but the George Lucas joint is very much an American folktale. I think that's really cool. Star Trek was really more about like ethical questions of society at large, viewed through an American lens. But I think you could call Star Wars like a fable or a mythos even. Rather, Star Trek is kind of like a commentary on society sort of thing. Okay, this is getting into some weird, boring shit. Let's move on. I had other shit I wanted to talk about, but that was cool. Elon Musk on Ted Cruz's podcast. Good stuff. And Asmongold is being based. But there was one other thing I wanted to look at that I haven't looked at yet, and that I wanted to talk about. And I'm also pushing the... Yeah, I'm going to try to do this with like a 2-hour time slot. I don't know how often I'll be able to do it, but I was thinking, you know, midnight to 2, the witching hour, you know, come on, that's kind of cool, right? And maybe sometimes we can have some guests or whatever. Mrs. Pac-Man or Galaga? What happened to regular Pac-Man? I like regular Pac-Man. All right. So, I'm glad that Tucker has how do we say this? Chaptered this out, because this was a 3-hour encounter between Tucker Carlson and Chris Cuomo, and I thought some of the highlights that I was seeing coming out of this were compelling and interesting. Wanted to take a look at them. So yeah, how about this, just to start with, is Andrew Cuomo versus Eric Adams. That might be interesting.
But we're below the national average in number of deaths in nursing homes. But who cares?
It was helpful also.
Wait, what?
33, 28, died in a hospital.
Jesus, the fucking Twitter video player is such a piece of trash. What am I doing? I'm pushing buttons and I'm going in the wrong direction. This. Okay. Does it not work? Okay, so that worked. So it didn't do that. Okay, good.
But that was helpful also.
So can Andrew win?
Can he win?
Yes. So I should say I know Eric Adams and I like
Eric
him.
Adams can win.
I am highly distressed by how dirty and chaotic and dangerous New York is. I'm really, really bothered. I almost don't even care about the ideology. I don't care what, rent control debates or tax.
Yeah.
I just want to be safe walking down the street.
So there's a great guy on YouTube who I watch sometimes named Cash Jordan. Not sure if you've ever seen any of his stuff, but he lives in New York. He talks about the shit situation with New York and illegal migrants all the time. And just crime and the way the city handles theft and crime, and it's driving retailers out of the city left and right. Enormous shopping centers that must have cost millions of dollars to build sit vacant because they can't turn a profit because of all the shoplifting and shit that's going on. Like, New York is a shithole. at this point. It's an absolute fucking shithole.
Street.
I get it.
And
I
he
get it.
doesn't seem to have been able to do that.
Well, let's defend Eric Adams, shall we?
I have. But I'd like to hear you do it.
And so have I. Why? Your brother's running against him. That's not what my family is about. If Andrew is the better choice for the voters in the primary, then he'll win. If he isn't, then he'll lose. And you sign up for that when you decide to get into it. Do I want him to win? Of course. He's my brother. I don't even vote in New York City. So it's this is a family thing for me. But all you got to do is Google it. I believe the indictment against Eric Adams was weak sauce.
Yeah.
And yes, I heard much, much later that they had more. They never put it out. An indictment is already just probable cause. It's the lowest layer of a prosecutorial
Also,
instrument.
it's totally immoral for the government at any level to impugn your character without charging you. If you have the evidence, charge me.
And they charged him, but they should have brought out whatever they said they had.
What they said is everyone looked at the indictment and was like, wait, you accepted airline upgrades? And by the way, every member of Congress does that all the time.
I believed it was weak sauce. Now, other people disagreed with me. That's fine. But I didn't know my brother was doing anything politically when I started my coverage of Mayor Adams. And I believe Trump's deal with him is not fair to Eric Adams. Should have pardoned him or dismissed the charges with prejudice, meaning you can't bring him again. Because think about it, Tucker, if I have that deal with you, is right now you're fine. You do what you want to do. But we're going to reassess after this event in the future. That means everything to you. And then we'll see if I'm going to prosecute you.
It does seem a little like a leash.
And I don't think it's fair. So, your criticism, your analysis of, hey, I think he should have been doing other things. My take on that is, okay, and the voters will decide that. But the guy has the biggest gorilla in the world staring at him like he's food, and he's supposed to focus on his job?
When you sleep better, you live better, you feel better, and you live.
Oh, this is weird. I can't figure out how to make this window a little bit smaller. Huh. Did that. Yeah. Give me the bar, you dummy. Sorry about that. All right. So that's interesting. I find it curious that Cuomo's willing to try and defend Eric Adams a little bit. But, it speaks somewhat to the fallout of what happened after COVID-19. I'll never forget Cuomo being on CNN in the morning. See you later, Abrams. Abrams is headed out. Have a good one. But being on CNN in the morning, and then the very next day or earlier that day, he had been caught outside biking. Previously telling people that they have to shelter in place and not leave the house unless it's for an emergency or something like that. Totally fucked up shit. And then, come 3-4 weeks later, he's like emerging from his basement for the first time ever. But it's like, well, somebody already caught you outside on your fucking bike, even though you're telling everybody they got to shelter in place. So the whole propaganda machine, completely fucking fucked him real hard, because he had to push the message. He had to push the narrative and the fear mongering that you gotta go out or you gotta pony up for grandma, otherwise grandma's gonna die, and all this fear mongering and shit that the government went through, which I thought was absolutely criminal, and ended up none of it was really true. But then from that experience, he's had to kind of go independent, and he's been on News Nation, I think it is, which is a independent network, not quite mainstream, but pretty close. But he's had a bit of a recognition since that fallout from the COVID bullshit and losing his job at CNN. He's sort of reset. And I think we're getting like an Anna Kasparian fucking transition from Andrew Cuomo, where he's going to become quasi conservative or centrist rather than full on fucking progressive commie. But we'll see. Don Lemon didn't take the fucking red pill. So he's been floundering. That shit is funny to see. But Bob says Cuomo's $5 million book deal was a payment for being a good boy during COVID. Sold no copies of that book. He's a scumbag. Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's move on to a more interesting topic.
Wars, as we call them. Donald Trump, for whatever you want to say about him negatively, approximated normal to the American voters more than the Democrats did. And that's
the
that's the
stuff
message.
Just scared the crap out of everybody.
But
I mean,
that's an example of what I'm
was
saying.
I think there are many examples, but that one was like so florid and crazy that, and it's still going on, that I to this day I don't understand it. And we live in a world where there are always going to be people who want to wear women's clothes or whatever. Fine.
Oh, I understand it. You saw it.
To elevate trannyism to like the top of the agenda list?
I can explain it to you very easily. It's readily apparent. And look, we saw the same mistake on display when the president addressed Congress. Okay? That is not a time for you to be obnoxious.
Yeah, that's not
If he wants to be obnoxious, fine. You are there out of respect for the office. There are rules of decorum in that place. I believe there should be rules of decorum in all places, in media and politics. But there aren't. But there are there. And they willfully and wantedly abuse them to make a point that they are against Trump. And it was a bad look for the Democrats. What is it an extension of? We, as Democrats, they will tell you, we are resisting who he wants to abuse and what he wants to destroy. Like what? Trans are a unique minority in this country. They are uniquely targeted. They need protection.
They're unique because they are such a minority. I mean, again, you bring up the whole trans and athletics debate to any leftist, any progressive commie, and the argument. I think the correct
below the national average in number of deaths.
We are
I think the correct argument is that if trans athletes want to play, they should have their own league. And the counter argument to that is immediately, well, there's just not enough athletes. What are you talking about? You're talking about like 0.01% of all athletes. I'm like, well, okay, then why do we even have this? Why do we even have this discussion? Why are we even having this issue with wanting people to be the correct biological sex to enter a locker room where you're gonna have to get naked in front of other people? What is the problem there? But no, that's the biggest fucking issue in the world. If you don't support that happening, then you're committing trans genocide. It's a genocide. It's complete bullshit. You're talking about an extremely small fraction of people all across the world who are afflicted by this, or legitimately afflicted by what amounts to a mental disorder, in my opinion. However you want to fucking look at it. But gender dysphoria is not good and unnatural. Therefore, it is a disorder as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, how do we treat that? How do you deal with that? How do you move forward with that? There's a bazillion different things to talk about in the nuance of the situation. But letting swinging dicks in a girl's locker room isn't the way to promote trans rights. I'm sorry. And trying to enforce this on schools at an elementary school level, at a middle school level, is beyond disgusting. I was just seeing the other day where some dude got arrested, a coach of a girls' basketball team, for having cameras in the locker room where he's taking little nudie pictures of the girls as they change. There are predators and actors with malintent working in our institutions of education. They're not immediately absolved because they're a teacher. And you've got teachers who, all over TikTok posting these flags. Oh, look at how diverse and inclusive my classroom is. Yeah. And there's just trans flags and gay flags and Ukraine flags all over the damn place. And we need to get politics out of school. We let boys be boys and girls be girls. And that's the fucking end of it. You come to a point in your life where you're an adult and you still have questions and you want to go through some shit that'll probably change your body for the rest of your existence. And, you know, that's a different discussion to have than should we be transing the kids? The answer is absolutely fucking not.
Going to protect them.
Athletics is the preeminent front in that debate. That's why I bring that up.
Okay, but this particular aspect of the issue, guys my size who decide to become female and play against my daughter in high school, that is not what you need to protect them from or against. That's something that doesn't make sense. Nope. We have to hold to the purity of the cause of protecting this minority group. Yeah, but you're not protecting.
No, we also have to hold to the cause of protecting the purity of our children. Do we not?
Them. You're protecting the people that are playing against them because they're 230 pounds. Yeah, it almost never happens. But if it happens once, it's something that never needed to happen. The purity test, the absolutist nature of binary politics, that if you are for something, you have to be all in on it beyond any conception of reason. That's what we're dealing with in our politics.
But
that's what that issue is.
Well, of course, I can think of a million topics on which that is true. I see
that with guns on the right, by the way.
Maybe right. I'm an absolutist on that. I could tell you why. It's not even that interesting. But the right to self-defense is a part of natural law. The idea that a man can become a woman by wishing it so is not only a violation of natural law, it's a violation of nature itself. It's like inherently insane. It's a denial of physical reality. And so if the argument is, there are people with weird sexual impulses who we shouldn't like scapegoat and hurt. I mean, I'm totally in agreement with that.
It is a perversion of live and let live. So,
right,
in the interest of live and let live,
the rest of us to tell a lie.
That's the perversion.
That's where that's when you feel like, well, this is a spiritual attack.
Well, it doesn't have to be a lie. In the interest of live and let live, right, which is a signature American freedom, or should be, right? You don't want these people to live the way they want to live. You are infringing on their rights. We will protect them. Now, I understand the political philosophy behind that. But once it entered a realm of where the people that you say you're trying to protect are now a problem for another group that need protection also, which are these kids, they didn't click into the common sense.
No, it's more than that, though. It's like the idea that the government should be involved in people's sex lives is a shocking concept to me. I don't think it should be.
Me either.
And they're promoting homosexuality. Promoting it. And I'll tell you how we know that they're promoting it, because its incidence has risen dramatically. Now, when I was a young man, there was a debate over what percentage of the population is gay. I was never anti-gay, for the record, and I'm not now.
Well, yeah. I don't think most conservatives are, to be frank. It comes from a standpoint of law and ethic, and ethical government, I would say. Whether or not you're gay is inconsequential. The same is true of whether or not you're trans. It should be inconsequential. It shouldn't matter. You're a human being. You get the same. Who's an American citizen? You get the same rights as every other American citizen. End of story. Bing, bang, boom. But your rights only extend as far as they don't infringe on other people's rights. When we talk about, spaces which are specifically women and spaces which are specifically men, there's a certain right to privacy that needs to be respected there. Spaces that are specifically girls and spaces that are specifically boys too, especially. Right? Because now you're talking about other people's kids. I recall this clip from a few years back where a very irate woman was going up to, it was some spa in San Francisco, and she was going to the concierge desk and raising hell because she saw a man with, man genitalia walking around in the women's side of the spa. And she had her daughters with her. And she's like, my little girl's in there. And you got this guy with a swinging dick walking around. This is not cool shit. And the concierge response was, well, that's how they identify, so there's nothing we can do about it. Like, that is the literal outcome of what this ideology is doing to society. And that shit is, people are not okay with that, and they have every reason not to be. You know? It's insane. Tucker's absolutely right. This shit has become a hell of a lot more prevalent in American society today than it ever has been before. And it's only happened in the past 5 to 10 years, where it seems to be like this fad, like a fashion that's exploded onto the scene, where if you're not queer, you're not cool. That shit is fucked up. It's not natural in any way whatsoever.
But it's an interesting question.
And anyone who claims otherwise is a propagandist.
They would say, you're born that way. You're born gay. So you cannot criticize someone on the basis of his immutable characteristics. Great. I totally agree with that. But then we saw the absolute incidence of self-reported homosexuality like triple. So clearly people aren't born that way. 30% of 8th graders were born gay? No, that's not true. And so there's been this dramatic rise that none of us are allowed to notice.
There's no reason to ever believe anything like that.
Why? Okay. Yes, I can. And I'm sort of thunderstruck by it. Like, what is that? And it clearly is a manifestation of the deeper truth, which is maybe some people are born gay, but people can also be moved towards self-identifying as gay. And that's exactly what's happened. So anyway, I don't think that's good.
Yeah, and it's because of the propagandist push from the progressive left, from the progressive communists. It's part of their scheme to upset anything normative, anything normal about American society. They want to just uproot it and flip it on its head. You know? Starting with, what is a woman? You know? Starting with, how do we define gender in the first place? And it's totally fucked. Boomer Bob says it was the fuck around of times, it was the find out of times. Charles Dickens. I don't even think that was Charles Dickens, dude. I really don't. I think it was Of Mice and Men, right? No, Tale of the Two Cities. I'm sorry. That is Charles Dickens. I'll be damned. Okay. Well, my bad. My bad. I was thinking it was out of Mice and Men. Of Mice and Men probably has like an homage to that in the beginning. Okay.
I don't think that's good. And I also don't understand why the government should be taking my tax dollars to convince people that certain forms of sex are better than others, particularly non-procreative sex. Like, what the hell is that?
Well, look, it's an easy legal and moral backstop that government should not be in the business of type. Okay? That's easy. There's plenty of things that government should be doing that isn't necessary. I believe that is an extension to how people choose their own bodies and how they use them. I believe in reproductive rights. I think.
No, you were right, Bob. It's Charles Dickens. I'm a dumbass. Might have been Ozzy Osbourne. Oh, maybe. Rip Ozzy, man. My dog died back in July. His name was Ozzy. He was a good dog. But he was very not good. I mean, his health was not good. I miss him. But I got a new dog on Christmas. So, hooray for that.
I think it is a right.
Frodo's his name. He's a little German Shepherd. He's over there sleeping. He ain't but about 6 months old right now. I don't want to wake him up. Because then he'll be running around all fucking night.
However, I see gay acceptance a little differently. The difference of a generation from our kids to us is it's much safer to say that you're gay now than it was.
Yeah, that's what they always go to. It's just how you are. And it's much safer to do it now than it was before. In fact, if you're not gay, then people are going to, people on our side of the fence are going to see you as somehow less than people who are gay. And that's going to be a problem for you in the future. So you should probably just say you're queer and not think about the rest of it. Just as a stamp of approval, like a Star of David to separate you from those terrible Trumpsters with their red hats.
Used to get beat up, used to get ostracized, used to get excluded. That happens less now. It still happens, but it happens less. Is there also a cultural formation that we see like in America. Everything goes in these big swings in different directions, always reaction formation. Are we more gay friendly in our culture, aggressively so, assertively so, than we were when we were growing up? Yes. Can that make it more attractive to young people who are struggling and trying to figure themselves out? Maybe.
You're just making excuses for propaganda at this point, Chris. It's propaganda that's driving society in this direction. And you're practically admitting it open face right now, but you can't even see the truth through your own twisted fucking pretzel brain. I swear.
And that's why I remember when I was in college, there were a lot of people who were gay in college who weren't gay afterwards. Now, a lot of them were gay in college and gay afterwards, but I think there's something to experimenting and certain people play out with identity.
There were certain drugs going around at certain parties and things. You know, people started passing out baby oil. P. Diddy was there. I didn't know what was going on, man.
So it's like, okay, but I just want to get to like the core question, which is, where does this come from, being gay? Is it inborn? We were told you're born that way. Okay, so where's the gene? There isn't one.
So, I don't know the genetics, but I do believe.
No one has isolated a
but
gene.
You haven't noticed when
there isn't a genetic component to it. There just isn't. What fucking, throws the boat completely over in the water for me, dude, is they'll sit and claim that gender identity is a social construct, but being gay is just a natural state of fucking life. Like, what?
That there would be certain kids that you were like, I think this kid's going to be gay.
100%. Oh, yes,
but
absolutely.
Where they were too young to be mimicking it.
I absolutely did notice that. And so I'm not saying there's not a genetic component. I'm just saying, and I don't know the answer is the truth. But what I do know is if you've got a third of middle schoolers saying, I'm not heterosexual, that's not...
Plays to a fad.
That's not
more than it
inborn.
does.
That's not inborn at all.
I think that there's...
See, there you go. You're admitting, like, it's right in front of your face. All you need to do is just reach out and touch it, dude. The truth is right there. The propaganda is turning the kids gay. Okay, they're putting chemicals in the water, and the chemtrails are coming down, and the propaganda coming out of the schools, and it's turning the damn kids gay. I don't want them turning my kids gay. Don't turn my fucking kids gay. Damn it. That's my best Alex Jones impression. What do y'all think? Oh man.
Two things can be true. You can have that it's easier to be accepted today. I'm not saying that it's the same. I still believe that when people are gay, it's like the main descriptor of them, whereas you and I don't identify, or, Tucker Carlson, you know him, straight guy, but when you're gay, you still get labeled that way. But I think two things can be happening at the same time, that there is a culture of persuasion in, let's say, in a guided or misguided sense of acceptance. And I think it is safer for people to come out now than it was a generation ago.
Yeah.
I'm just being facetious, playing to a criticism of my own viewpoint. That's not what I think. But the propaganda coming from leftists, the indoctrination happening in schools, the push for policy change in schools and in government messaging and in government standards is having an impact, as evidenced by what people are putting out all over TikTok. I mean, just look at Libs of TikTok or any TikTok compilation channel that you can find. There's hundreds of them out there. One of my favorites is Joey B Tunes, right? That's a great one. That guy's fucking hilarious. Major recommendation from me. But you see people out there literally telling you, don't talk to your parents about it, right? Don't, and you have policies in schools out in California where counselors are not required to inform parents about what students reveal over the course of a counseling session, which is completely insane to me. That's insane. Is the state taking ward of the children, or are the parents still the legal guardians of the children? Because if the parents are the legal guardians, they have every right to understand everything that child is going through. And it is not your place from a bureaucratic standpoint to withhold any information at all. That shit is fucking ludicrous to me. But Democrats like fucking Chris Cuomo over here will say, well, we gotta protect the trans kids and we need gender affirming care and all of the nice, feely, happy, fuzzy things that make all of this okay. When in reality, it's propaganda after media after peer pressure that's actually pushing these kids in this direction. And like Tucker is saying, like this is not natural. This is not normal. Something is pushing the kids in this direction, and I'm telling you exactly how those dominoes are fucking falling. It starts with the government taking a stance on the issue, and then it trickles down into lower institutions such as schools, and then it gets echoed by media institutions such as TikTok, such as NBC, such as CNN, where this motherfucker spouted this propaganda for years.
Yes, both are true, but it's...
and then it gets into shit like Nickelodeon and Sesame Street, and you got freaking drag queen story hour in between episodes of SpongeBob, and who's Elmo's dad? He's like a scraggly old Elmo. Or no, the blue one. Which one is the blue one that doesn't have the gonzo nose? I fucking forget, man. But he's on there talking about, well, I have a lot of trans friends and we just need to be nice to them and shit like this. And it's like, well, yeah, but you don't need to be having, they're pushing this shit heavy to an indoctrination level degree. And it is concerning. And we would be remiss to just ignore that and say, oh, well, it's just kid shows being weird. There's never been any weird cultish, child abuse things that happen with organizations that center around children. No, certainly not. Never once. Never.
I guess the point I'm making is it's really clear that the federal government, state governments, local governments, and NGOs are promoting homosexuality among kids. Obviously true to me.
Yes.
And transgenderism among kids. And my point is that is not acceptable. And when I was a child, if an adult went up to a kid in a park and started talking to him about his sex life, you could shoot the guy because that's not acceptable.
That's
to
pretty
talk
fucked up.
to other people's children about sex, period. And now it's not only acceptable, it's the rule and it's paid for by my tax dollars. And I'm just saying, like, that's really destructive.
Look.
Yeah, it is.
It is a very persuasive argument. I don't know. It certainly hasn't been my...
No, what you're saying is Tucker is 100% correct. Yes.
It hasn't been my experience in my kids' schools, public and private, that I felt that they were being indoctrinated.
They didn't have Pride Week
into anything.
Or Pride Month or Pride celebrations.
I don't remember it specifically, but even if they did, let's say they did. I can't prove that right now, but let's say they did. That to me is not the same thing as...
Then what the fuck is it, dude? What the fuck is it?
Indoctrination. I have no problem with adults and children being exposed to different belief systems and different ways and different cultures. I have no problem with tolerance. Now, indoctrination is a different word.
Well, pride is not tolerance. Pride is the opposite of tolerance. Pride is a celebration.
Right.
And so you're celebrating certain sex acts with other people's kids. And I just think right there you've crossed a line.
Well, Pride Week doesn't have to be children, right? When you have the...
Yeah, but it always is. It always is family friendly. Bring your kids. And then you got fucking weirdos having sex in the street. And you wonder why we have an issue with this stuff.
When you have the St. Patrick's Day parade, it's not making people be Irish.
I totally agree.
Right?
I'm talking
parade.
about kids. I'm talking about schools.
You're talking about...
By the way, I don't have any problem with heterosexual pride, gay pride. People are happy about the way that they live. That's fine. I have a huge problem with schools or governments getting involved in the sexuality of children.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
But every school does it. There's not one school that doesn't have...
Their job is to keep everybody safe.
No, but it's not safe. It's promoting it.
No, I got you. I get what would bother you. I'm saying their job is to keep kids safe, which means if my kid is gay, your kid can't beat him up on that basis. That's the role of the school. That's the rule of the law.
Well, I mean, forgive me for saying, but it doesn't matter what kid is what and this kid is that. is not important. Kids should not be beating each other up. That's part of the school's responsibility. Period. Stop. No further context necessary. If kids are beating each other up, there's a problem. We need to address that. Doesn't matter if they're gay or not. And I don't need a bunch of propaganda being shoved down my kid's throat in order to turn him gay, in order to try to somewhat, however, facetiously prevent that.
People have to be able to live and be free and safe. It's different to you trying to teach my kid to be gay. If that's going on, obviously it would be a problem.
That is what's going on. Tell me that's not what's going on. Are you fucking kidding me? Jeez, man.
I mean, I think if
I've never experienced that.
A massive percentage of middle schoolers are gay. In general, possession.
Yeah, I mean, the evidence is there. A massive percentage of middle schoolers are gay. So they're being taught to be gay by somebody. Who's telling them? If not the schools. Oh, man. Let's take one more clip out of here. Then I'll probably head out.
Look, I don't disagree with
what the hell is that?
I don't know, but it's not just that, right? Now we get this weird story about the Epstein files.
What the hell is that? Release this and they haven't. Very serious force to the point where they're embarrassing themselves because they.
Bob asked, does Cuomo have kids? I think so. I'm pretty sure he does. Let's assume he does. I don't particularly care about the details therein because I don't want to dox the guy. I don't want anything to happen to his family, but I think so. Yeah, I mean, he's speaking from a point of authority. My kids have been to school, and I've never seen this happen with them. So he has kids of some kind. Yeah.
Promise they did release this and they haven't.
Look, I don't disagree with.
So what the hell is that?
I don't know, but it's not just that, right? Now we get this weird story about the Epstein files. Like, who even cares? You know what I mean? Like, I want it released. I believe in transparency. I think it's the root to trust. And it's not just because I'm in the media. It's just common sense. But A.G. Bondi, I don't have any reason to be anti-A.G. Bondi. And she says she's going to release the files. And I don't even care that they released them to their pod people. I mean, I thought that was stupid, but I mean, that's fine. They want to do it, they do it.
It was a stupid publicity stunt. That could have been handled a lot better. I was not satisfied with that. I think that was a huge misstep. I'm still wondering where those fucking Epstein files are, Pam. What's going on with that shit? We got a little trickle of information, a week or two ago. But we still don't have the whole data dump that was promised. So I'm real curious. Where's the Epstein files? Even if Trump's on them, I still want to see them. So